Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I want to talk more about diminished chords, and our last video, if you missed it, was about minor 7th and minor 6th inversions connected with diminished chords. This is going to build on that a bit and going to be something that you can use with improvisation and substitutions. This is going to be dealing with putting diminished chords over dominant 7th chords, how it affects the dominant 7th chords, and how we can see that on the guitar, as well as some advantages we have on the instrument. We'll also look at how to use this over a tune. First, I'd like to have a short introduction. If you'd like to skip forward, feel free, but this is pretty important for me to mention. Down in the description, I put a link to a Patreon page that I've made, and I know some of you are probably like, oh boy, here we go. But I've been on YouTube for 11 or 12 years now. It was pretty much just for fun, for posting my own music. And then a few years ago, I started making these lessons and some gear reviews and got an offer for monetization from YouTube. However, last January, I guess in 2018, they changed their policies for monetization. And since I didn't have enough subscribers, everything has just, not been paid since then. And that's fine. The point of this is not to make, I didn't start doing this to make money. It was to share information because I think it's important. However, I'm a professional musician. I teach and play for a living. I'm also a single dad, and I have to make rent every month, essentially. So as I decide what I'm doing with my time, it's generally with music. What is my job, what's for fun, what's a hobby, and so on. It's kind of confusing with music because a lot of people just do it as a hobby, and it's still my hobby even though it's my job because I spend all my free time doing it. But with the YouTube videos, I haven't been posting as often because I have to prioritize the things that are related to my job, so that I can keep home for me and my daughter and so on. So I was thinking, how can I possibly make this happen more often? And I thought I could make an extension of my teaching here locally. And if somebody would like to support, then I may as well make a Patreon page. So it's in the description down below. I don't have any tiers or anything like that. It's just whatever you feel like you could give to help support me, help support making more regular videos, then I'd really appreciate it if you can. I know a lot of you are probably musicians too, so I understand, of course, if you're struggling yourself, and I don't expect everyone to pay to watch this or anything like that. I'm still going to keep making videos either way. It's just hopefully more often. So let's get to the actual video here. With diminished chords, we learned a couple important things that are going to apply to today's video. We looked at diminished chords, at how each note in a diminished chord is the root of that diminished chord. Unlike other chords where we have one root, in a diminished chord, any of these notes can be the root. We can also move up 3 frets at a time, and they will repeat. They're all the same chord, and any one of the notes can be the root. Now, we're going to put this over a dominant 7th chord to see how it affects the dominant 7th chord. So we're going to look at each note in the chord for a second. I'm choosing these particular ones for a reason. So let's think about what the letter names are of the notes that we have. We have F natural. Oh, by the way, if you didn't watch the previous video, this diminished shape that I'm using is 3rd fret, 4th fret, 3rd fret, 4th fret. You can finger it however you'd like to. You can bar it if you'd like. You can use 1 finger per fret, whatever. Anything is fine for this. So we have F natural on the 3rd fret. We have B natural on the 4th fret of the 3rd string. The previous one was on the 4th string. We have 3rd fret 2nd string, which is D, and the 4th fret of the 1st string, which is G sharp. So let's hear that one more time. We have F, B, D, and G sharp. Now if we throw out the F, we have all the notes that build up an E7 chord except for the E itself. So if we add the E now, it's just an E7 chord. So what about the F? Well, all we have to do is think, what is F in the key of E, essentially, and then that tells us. And this is the process for any added note into a chord name. There are rules as far as, do we call it an add something or just an upper extension, like saying D13 or something like that, or a sus or anything. There are rules, but this will tell you any chord, you just figure it out what it's in, what number, what scale degree the note is that you're adding, and in the key of the chord, and that will tell you roughly what you're going to need to have the chord name be. So F in the key of E is the flat 9, because F sharp is the natural ninth in the key of E. So when we add that in, it is E7 flat 9. And because I can repeat these up every 3 frets, all of these are E7 flat 9. On top of that, you can build any of these off any note in E7 except the E itself. And that's because, as we talked about, every note in the diminished chord is a root, potentially. Because we have B as the root, or it could be, we have D as the root, and we have G sharp as the root. That means the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th can all be, how do I say this? Let me start over. You could start playing a diminished chord off of any one of those notes, and you could start playing a diminished arpeggio off of any of those notes, and they would work and build E7 flat 9. So let's do that with the actual chords. Here's a G sharp on the 4th string. There's E7 flat 9. Here's B as the root. E7 flat 9. Here's G sharp as the root. Sorry, what was I saying there? D is the root, not G sharp. We already did that one. So all of these, and did I say, yeah, that was all of them, I guess. And the other one, of course, is F, which is the flat 9, and that would be the other root. We can't build it off the root of the dominant 7th chord, though. If we put a diminished chord off of E itself, then it will just be E diminished 7th, because that's the root of the chord. So, how can we apply this to some tunes? First, we have to, if we're doing this for improvisation, we have to know how to break this chord apart, unless we're just playing solos with chords, which is fine. We talked about that for the whole last video, and that's great, good sound. But realistically, we're probably going to be playing some single notes, right? So a diminished arpeggio on the guitar, I think, has a big advantage over other instruments because we don't have white keys and black keys. Everything is a blank slate. We have position markers, but they're not in such a way that one type of note has a position marker and one doesn't. It's just to show us quickly what fret is which. So we have this very grid-like arrangement of notes that doesn't prefer natural sharp or flat notes. And as far as arpeggios go, that can make things hard for major and minor arpeggios. But for something that's symmetrical, like a diminished chord, which is all built out of minor thirds, all we have to do is play the minor third, do it on the next string, do it on the next string, and it keeps the same fingering across the neck. So let's start off the 4th fret of string 6. This is G sharp, this is the 3rd of E7. We're going to play a minor third. That means we're going to play finger 1 and finger 4 in position. We're going to go up 1 fret and go to the next string and play the same fingering, 1 and then 4. We're going to do the same thing, up a fret, next string, finger 1 and 4, up a fret, next string, finger 1 and 4. Because of the tuning of strings 3 and 2, we now need to go up 2 frets. So up 2 frets, finger 1 and then 4, and then up 1 fret, finger 1 and 4. So what we get slowly is up a fret, up a fret, up a fret, up 2 frets, up 1 fret. Oops, sorry. On the bottom 4 strings, that becomes very straightforward because it's just up a fret, up a fret, up a fret. Because we have to go up 2 frets between strings 3 and 2, it's not really ideal. It makes the fingering very easy to think about, but at the same time, that 2 fret thing can create some problems. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't use it, and I would recommend that we use it when we're first getting used to this. But if we wanted to, we could play up until we get up to where the 2 frets up would happen. That means the last note of the 3rd string. And then instead, so let me go over this here. 7th fret, 7th position. Let's be in 7th position here. Finger 3 on the 4th string. We're going to play 3, and then the next string is 1, 4. And then the next string is just 3, and the next string is 1, 4. So in position, we had 3, 1, 4, 3, 1, 4. This now, if we combine this into the arpeggio that we just played from the low note, the up fret thing, combining those two is more complicated to think about than just going 1 4 1 4 1 4 up the neck. But if we're staying in position, it's much more simple to just think of this fingering instead. And we even get the benefit of having a very easy to remember fingering with 3 1 4 3 1 4. Whichever fingering you want to, and there's other options too, whichever fingering you want to use is totally fine for this. We're going to just be inserting these arpeggios over seventh chords, and it doesn't matter how you finger it, it just matters that you hear it and how it can resolve to the 1 chord after that dominant 5 chord. So let's start looking at this over a tune. I'd like to look at this over Summertime again, since if you guys were working on this last time, it would have been over Summertime in the inversion and diminished chord video. So we can insert this anytime there's a dominant 7th chord. In Summertime, E7 is going to be the one that people are going to think of first, because E7 is the 5 chord that takes us back to the 1 chord. So E7 to A minor 7. There are other places you can put the dominant 7th chord, and first I just want to go through that. I might not do these every single time, but I want to mention them as possibilities. So if we have the beginning of the song, it's just A minor. Now we can play, before we go to D7, we can play A7. So if we had, we can play A7 because that leads us, let's see, this is probably more something that you would do during soloing, I should mention as well. You don't really want to insert these chords and force them on people. But if you're the one making the call during a solo, then this is for that purpose, or just if you're practicing it, it's just another chance to do the exercise in this song. So that A7 that we're inserting, even though it's not an original change, if I have the flat 9 there as well, then that leads us to the D minor. A7 isn't in the song, but A7 is the 5 of D, and that's why we can insert that before D minor, because that takes us to D minor. So that's the first place we can put it in, and we'll go back to that in a second. So if we had bum bum bum, B minor 7 or B7, depending on which version of the song you're looking at, and then E7. Of course, that's where we're going to insert that, same as the beginning. And then we have D minor 7, G7, C, A minor, D minor 7, or B minor 7, flat 5 probably, E7, A minor 7, and then a 2-5 back to the top. So we have a few places to put those. If we do the A7 in bar 4, that would be, then there's our first one. Any E7, of course, we're definitely going to be practicing using that. And the G7 that leads to the C major 7 will also be doing this. Let me just check my tuning. I heard a pop here. The humidity has really been coming back, and it makes the bridge of the guitar readjust because the top is expanding. But I think we're good to go. So let's say just slowly that we're working through the beginning. You can play whatever you want on every other chord, and we're going to try to put diminished arpeggio over every dominant chord that we get to. So if we have, let's do it around the melody. Let's solo around the melody. And then we have A7. So that bit there, I went from C sharp, that's the 3rd of A7, and I resolved it to the 9th of D minor 7. I could have just resolved it to the 3rd or the root though, if I wanted to. Now, I could have taken that arpeggio from, remember from what we talked about before, from any part of the A7 chord except from the A. So instead of from C sharp, I could have taken it from the 5th. Let's see. Right, that would be from the 5th of A7. If I wanted to take it from the flat 7th, if we had... Some of these are going to sound maybe a little basic-ish, and you know, it's an exercise. We're inserting diminished chords to practice them. So try to do all the possibilities and just accept that this might not be super musical at this point, because your ear will get used to it and you will be able to do them musically once your ear hears what's going on and your fingers can replicate it. Now let's continue from there. We had D minor, B minor 7 or B7, and then E7. So if we had, where did I do it from there? I think I went from the 3rd. So in this case, G sharp is the 3rd. I went something like, was that it? I don't think so. Close though. Something like that. But here's the thing, even though I can't remember where I resolved it to, it will resolve really nicely to any place in A minor that you want it to. With these are all triplets, I guess, that I'm using. So whatever you do, you're kind of guaranteed to have a nice resolution to the one chord. Let's continue through. D minor 7, and then G7. Let's see. Let's do it from the 3rd first. So that we have G7 going from the 3rd, and I'm just playing the 1-4-1-4, which takes us to C major 7. Let's do it from another note. Let's do it from the 5th. These are shorter arpeggios. We don't need every single time to be going like just blowing our entire arpeggio at once. Just a few notes of it are fine. So let's say if we have D minor, hey, sorry I have to splice this. As I was recording, I saw this wasp had gotten in, was crawling across the carpet towards me. More importantly than it coming towards me, it was slow, but I didn't want the cats to go after it and get it angry and get stung or anything. So I just wanted to end this with one other thing anyway. I think the last thing that we were talking about was using a large arpeggio across the neck. And you can do that. That can sound good. Anything can sound good. You know, there's no issues there. But we don't have to use a lot of notes for this to work. You can just use 2 strings. You can just use 2 notes for that matter and still have this sound good. So let's go through and just kind of check that out. So we have A minor, E7, so that was just something like, that would have been just those 4 notes. 4 notes are all it takes to play all the notes in the arpeggio, right? Because it's the 7th chord, it means there's only 4 notes in the chord, and then it starts repeating again. So A minor, A7 is next. So that A7, 1, 2, 3, 4, same thing, just those 4 notes. I'm just going up to the chord scale here to fill in some time. B minor 7. So that one from the 3rd, just those 3 notes, and then instead of continuing the arpeggio, I just went instead to a chord tone. So that one, what did I play? Something like that. That's really just 4 or 3 notes, not even 4 that time. And then D minor 7 to G7. That was just 1 note, I guess, if you want to think of it that way. For the G, we'd have just took the top note of the diminished chord that would be down here, and it just kind of informed my note choice by choosing a note from that arpeggio and then playing a short line from it. So I hope this has been helpful. If you have any questions, let me know as always. I think we hit everything. Got a little distracted with the needing to cut the video. But yeah, I think we're good to go. So again, from the intro thing, if you'd like to support me or the channel, get more videos more frequently and stuff like that, hopefully. Not Discord, what's it called? Patreon link is down below in the description. If you're new to the channel, welcome aboard. Subscribe if you'd like this stuff. And look back at previous videos. There have been a bunch so far. I hope you all have a good rest of the day wherever you're watching and have some happy practicing. Take care.